Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 358 of the Stacey West podcast. I am your host, Ben, and I'm joined by Gary this week as everybody else is ill or unavailable. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, it was a bit of a scrap to get a team together this week, wasn't it? You wanted to do it in the middle of the night. Chris has been laid up with whatever it is that he's got for weeks on end. Charlie's disappeared in his own arse somewhere in Gibraltar. So, yeah, it's been a difficult one to try and get everybody together for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, yeah, we do send our best wishes to Chris and hope he gets better soon. You think he's wrapped up with antibiotics and probably a bit of what was it you called it in the group chat the other day?
I'm not saying because it's misogynistic.
Yeah, but man flu. We'll call it man flu. That'll do.
Man flu. Yeah, basically, if he was a horse, he would definitely have been sold for glue by now.
Just a big tent over his spot in the ground.
I've run. The thing is, I did a run earlier, and I actually deliberately ran past his house, just thinking, "Here I am, look, the peak of physical fitness, 46 years old, and he's laid in there, sickly and ill, like one of those children that's seeing a peel for on the television,
slowly peeling the curtain back and just going, watching you go past.
Sunlight. Come on, Lamin, get better soon. We need some stats on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. But now, how have you been otherwise, mate? Have you been keeping up with your training?
Yeah, is the answer to that. I have. Yeah, really busy doing the training. So 10, 12, 15-mile runs, interval running. So I was doing intervals today, which was 10 400-meter intervals, which doesn't sound a lot, but you're sprinting for 400 meters, then a minute and a half kind of jogging, sprinting for 400 meters. So it's usually it takes it out of me, but today it was actually piss easy. It wasn't a problem at all. So I think on Wednesday or Thursday. So I wasn't meant to run today. I was meant to run tomorrow, but I'm going to Mansfield tomorrow. I couldn't get it all squeezed in time. So Wednesday or Thursday, I've got I think it's a 6 or 7 mile run, and then I think Saturday is 15 miles, which is going to be really.
Is that the furthest you'll have done so far? Or?
Yes, it is. Yeah, the furthest I do at all is 20 miles. Through my training, so I do 20 miles and then I don't run another distance for about 3 weeks until I actually go to London. But a week on Sunday is the Scunthorpe half marathon, so that will be my first proper half marathon race, which is interesting. I've got the race number 617, which I'm quite pleased with. And I'm running with a Grimsby fan who has got whatever their year of formation is. I don't know because I don't care. But that's his number. A guy called Richard Scott I'm running with. So, yeah, it'll be good. It should be all right. That Lincoln fan and a Grimsby fan running the Scunthorpe half marathon.
Well, there we go. That's it. Well, so, yeah, I mean, anything, you've been up to anything else? I think we were speaking briefly off air about why you don't like playing online games. Do you want to elaborate?
Just to clarify, we do this chit chat at the beginning because somebody said they didn't like it, and then we had this deluge of people going, "No, we do like the chit chat. It's good." So yeah, I don't like. I mean, I like video games. I don't play much anymore, but I always used to. But I used to like getting your mates round and having 2-player. Like sitting in front of back at Rugby when I lived in Rugby with my dad. The open fire, the coal on. Me and my lad called Ian used to sit playing Pro Evo for hours and hours. Like there was a commentary that used to say, "Oh, he's fumbled it." So every goal I scored, he'd be like, "Oh, it's a fumble." You got that banter. Nowadays, you play online and you play with somebody who's got their music on in the background who you've never met. They're giving you abuse. Inevitably, they're better than you. Well, they are better than me anyway, because I am generally crap at video games. And my connection out here is rubbish. And it's just like the whole experience is so stressful. I don't like people a lot. I like all the patrons. I like everybody who's commenting here: Steve Barton, John Booth, Andy Brown, Carl Fox, Flossie Tops, Jason Wright. I like all of those people. I like those, but I don't generally like people I don't know. And so the thought of sitting down for an evening and playing video games with somebody that I don't know, who will be playing music that I don't like through a headset, just absolutely annoys me. And like I started playing EA 25 a couple of weeks ago, just because somebody that I know had got a team, and I thought, I'll get an ultimate team, and then it's something to talk about. It's awful. Because Squad Battles is the 1-player version of it, but they've cut it right down.
Yeah.
So like you only get like 16 squad battles rather than like 40 or whatever, and you only get like a 2-minute game instead of a 10-minute game. They can
so you spend your money, Gary. That's what it is.
I'm not spending my money. I'm not spending my money on virtual products. I want to spend my money on real products and real things. I prefer to buy memories, not virtual things.
That's fair enough. But look, let's park the video game conversation, because I know I used to do a podcast all about that, and that was very fun. But let's talk about football, because that's what we're here to do. Obviously, Saturday, the Imps headed down to London, and we went to play Leyton Orient. Team news came in. We a little bit surprised at just how many changes there were, Gary, going into the game. 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, not at the changes. I think with the Saturday, Tuesday, people like James Collins probably are not going to play Saturday, Tuesday. With the tactical shift as well to a 4-4-2, that kind of dictates that you're going to have to change personnel somehow. You know, obviously we normally play with 3 centre-backs and a left wing-back, but effectively the 3 centre-backs played, but Rowan at left-back, which pushed Rico a little bit further up. St. Lucas was almost certain to come into the team with Ethan Arahan on the bench, not on the bench, sorry, injured. So yeah, it didn't particularly surprise me that there was some changes. I did fear the worst. That's just like the injuries that we've got. Actually, they don't get mentioned an awful lot, but when you lose the likes of Ethan Arahan, Bailey Cadamartri would probably play at some point. You know, they're 2 pretty big players. Tom Hamer would be in and around it as well. So they're not squad breakers apart from Arahan, who is arguably our best player, and he's a massive, massive loss. And people think, well, Sam Lucas played for Stoke, he played for Swansea. I remember one time there was talk about potentially him playing for England, whereas actually he's quite a bit older now. He played 32 times for Rotherham last season, but has hardly played hardly played football this season at all. So yeah, I was a little bit concerned. And you look at their team with Sonny Perkins and Randell Williams, 2 players who are outstanding, if I remember correctly. Was Perkins the former Leeds youngster that was at Oxford, somebody I've always admired. Randell Williams, he's been someone that we've looked at in the past, as I understand. So I did fear the worst, especially how what sort of good form they've been on as well, Orient.
Yeah, I think that was the concern going in for sure. Like, obviously they've been absolutely flying for a number of weeks. I think going into it, I think Charlie and I discussed it on the pod, and we said it was probably feared the worst going in, but we'd give it a bloody good go. And I think it showed in the first couple of minutes that they are a decent side. They're that they're really well drilled. I think they were effective going forward. But I think we held our own for as long as we needed to, and then I really thought we came into the game. The goal that when it did come for them, to me, it felt like it was against a run of play. I thought we were starting to get into the game in a way that we could have really impacted it, and it came from a free kick that.
But before we go to the goal, I'm not picking you up on this particularly as you, but I'm picking up generally. We keep saying things like, you see teams, they're really well drilled, they know what they're doing. That's the one concern, I think, that when it comes to having concerns around us at the moment, that I have for us, is I never look at us and think we look like a really well drilled outfit. We can play all in nice spells, but we do keep switching things up a little bit now, whether that's for personnel because of injuries, whether it's for form, I don't know. You look at Leyton Orient and they looked good, and they looked like they would tear us apart at every opportunity. I don't feel that we've had that for the past few weeks, arguably maybe even months, which is, it's not being directly critical, but it's just saying I don't feel we've got that. And it's really important because we say every week about not every week, but about certain teams, they look well drilled, they know what they were doing. Said it about Bolton, they sacked Everett. We said it about Richie Wellens' teams, they do. And that's what we need to do. We need to look well drilled. But you are quite correct. Whilst they started very well, they should have scored within 3 minutes through Charlie Kelman, save from Zach Geacock. He'll wish his afternoon had finished right there. And then we did take a degree of control without creating anything. Let's be really specific about that as well. We did look like we were good. We were in possession. We were the away team. So you were expected probably to concede possession a little bit. So for those first however many minutes, yes, we did look good. I'm not going to say against the run of play, because I think that they also looked very good, but it just looked like it was going to be a decent game. I just didn't want it to be settled by a mistake, be that the referees or Zach Geacock's. But go on, Ben, we'll crack on now with the free kick.
Well, you've set it up, so I'll knock it out. It was one of those moments where I think Zach Gcock will probably wish the ground had swallowed him up. I mean, going into it, it's not a free kick. I think Jovan wins the ball, and the referee's given the free kick based on the reaction. He wins the ball, and I think there's maybe a bit of a collision after the fact. I don't think there's anything in it at all. I felt it was a harsh free kick to give. But the lad stays down. The referee gives the free kick, and then of course comes across. Gcock comes for it. He's in no man's land. He comes for it. I think he sees the striker coming out the corner of his eye, and he just freezes, not sure what he's doing. And then it's nodded in. I think it's a really, really poor goal to concede. And yeah, like you say, I think Zach Gcock will probably hope his afternoon would have ended at that point.
I think I agree with you. It wasn't a free kick, but it's not like it's a penalty. It's a free kick 15, 20 yards outside the area. So, and I'm agreeing with you. So please don't look upset like you do right now. But at the end of the day,
it's just my natural look.
Yeah, they do sometimes get given, and the fact is you've still got to defend it. Ethan Galbraith actually does really well. We're talking critically. I'd like to try and look at a goal from the attacking team's point of view as well as the defending team's point of view. And Galbraith's come across the front and flicked it up and over our defence. It's really clever. Rather than trying to get the trajectory from the free kick over the defence, he's come and flicked it on. I think it's a really well-worked move. But when you watch the trajectory of the ball as it comes down, there's one moment where I've paused it, and Zach Gcock and Sonny Perkins are midway. So they're this, and my head's the ball, although the ball is considerably smaller than my head. A keeper's got to get that because he can reach and jump, and he just stands still. He's been exemplary in recent weeks. He made a good save in the first minute, but you've got to look at him and go, that's a goalkeeping error. It's pure and simple a goalkeeping error. And you're away from home against a team that don't concede very many goals, and you make an error like that, you put yourself on the back foot straight away. Yeah,
absolutely. I thought it felt harsh from a game standpoint, but we've made our own luck in that instance. We've watched it come in, and I think Gcock, like you say, been really, really good over the past few games. It's an individual error, and I don't know how many times we're going to be able to say that this season. It's another individual error that's cost us.
And remember, you're talking about a team here going into that game had only conceded 10 home goals in 16 games this season.
Yeah,
so I think you're instantly on the back foot.
Yeah, was it joint second fewest goals conceded? Yeah, there we go in the division.
So.
I corrected myself. I did say fewest. But yeah, it was. I think it was another one shortly afterwards where, ultimately there's another individual error, and it's cost us again. Conor McGrandles doesn't control the ball very well. Goes to challenge to win it back. And to be fair, I mean, the ball to Sonny Perkins for that second goal was really, really good. It was a really clever goal. And again, similar to what you said about looking for the attacking point of view for the goal, I thought both of those goals, well, the second one more so, was really, really cleverly worked. I mean, Perkins has lost Sean Rowan as he's come to cover for McGrandles losing the ball, and he's all on his own. Really lovely ball to him, and unfortunately at that point it's 2-0, and it didn't really look like there was much way back at that point, did it, Gaz?
No, I mean, you've missed an offside out. Obviously, there was the goal I don't think was offside, was 23 minutes, wasn't it, just before their second goal, so it would have leveled it.
Sorry, I had them the wrong way around, but yes, you are correct.
So we'll come back to that in a second. Again, look, there's an error. It's Conor McGrandles giving the ball away. It's one of the reasons I know that we see him as a 6. As a club, they see Conor McGrandles as the Ethan Arahan replacement. I don't, and I never have. I liked him when he used to play alongside Liam Bridcut there, but I don't like it when he's playing there on his own. I do think that he does cough up the ball a bit, and I go all the way back to Wimbledon. We lost 1-0 to, was it Wimbledon? And he gave the ball away in the 6 role. I think you had the box at the time, so it was Wimbledon. It was the season after the, it was.
Yes.
And I like Conor. I don't think he's been on a brilliant run, if I'm honest. And maybe I've been watching for it rather than trying to see the good things he does. And I know a lot of people have said, no, I think he's had one of his best games. That's perception, that's opinion, not an agenda. So I do think, personally, I'm not a massive fan of him in that role. But in a 4-4-2, it was a two-man midfield anyway. So it's kind of by the by. But if we go back to 3 tomorrow, I would prefer that it was Sam Clucas in there rather than Connor. But again, when he's given the ball away, there's still work to do. Orient have still, he's not coughed it up on the penalty spot with an open goal, so there's still opportunities to stop it, and it's the same from the free kick. The referee's given the free kick, but we've got opportunities to stop that as well. So yeah, poor goals to concede. You can't give teams who want to go up, as Leyton Orient do, chances like that without a doubt.
No, and I mean, you mentioned for the first goal, Galbraith does really well. I think he ran the show for them.
He got 3 assists. So
well, yeah, he was just a superb pass through to to Perkins to get that second. But let's go back, like you say, to the first time that we had the ball in the afternoon. Ball comes across. Ben House puts a really nice ball across for Paudie O'Connor, of all people, who slots it in. I couldn't see who was offside when the ball was played. I don't think Paudie O'Connor's offside when the ball comes across. So it's just whether, with the camera angles as they were at the replays, it's whether Ben House is offside when that ball's played forward. And to me, it doesn't necessarily look like he is, because he's coming alongside the defenders who aren't really that close to him. It's a tricky one to decide, but I mean, yeah, it was a brief moment of joy that was immediately ruined.
Yeah, I've watched it back several times. It can't be Paudie. I can only imagine it's Ben House. On Y Scout, it does say Ben House, but there isn't a camera angle to show it. If it is, it's frustrating. He was offside 3 or 4 times in the first half, and Pete messaged me and said he's got to stay onside. I actually thought Ben had a good game. I thought he fought really well. I thought him and Fred Draper looked like they were causing issues without really creating any chances, dare I say. But yeah, it was frustrating. And look, we're going to go on to the second one. The second one is offside. He's a mile offside when the ball comes in. And that one's more frustrating for me, because although there's the ambiguity around the first one, he isn't the offside, he may not be, it might be a refereeing error, it might not be. That's the beauty of football. In the second one, there's no doubt, if he checks his run for a split second, the ball still arrives in his path. And for me, and this isn't a criticism of Ben Wright, Jesus Christ, what is it, 2008? It's not a criticism of Ben House, but if that's James Collins, he times his run a little bit better. And that's not to say Collins should have started, because again, keeping him fit, we need him to start tomorrow night, all that sort of stuff. I buy that. But I think a natural centre forward with more experience times that run a little bit better, and we're probably back in it. But bear in mind, we were already 2-0 down at that point. So it is what it is. One of them may have not been offside, the other one certainly should not have been offside. I think that would be my overall opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, eventually we did manage to get there, and to be fair, like I said a bit earlier on, I thought we had a really good half in terms of performance. I thought we looked decent. I thought we looked solid. Again, without creating too much outside of the offside stuff. But I didn't have too much to complain about outside of the mistakes. And then just before the halftime whistle, the ball comes across. Paudie makes another claim to stay up front again. I think he's earlier on was a little bit. I think his stat was the most touches in the opposition penalty area. I don't know if he still does have that for us, but a decent effort. The keeper's done well to get to it. For a split second, I thought, are they going to claim that this has gone over the line? But it comes back out. Lewis Monsma shows the awareness and absolutely thumps it home to send us all in at halftime. Nice and happy, guys.
I want to say nice and happy because we're still losing 2-1. So I'm not happy
happier than we were.
But yeah, it was a good time to get a goal. It would have been nicer if we'd got one of the offside ones, and it would have been 2-2. But it was. We held back on the long throw as well, and we used Rico. Rico just looked so much more confident playing on the left wing rather than at left wing back. It was a good delivery, like you say. Paudie stayed up again, so he stayed up and got the goal that was ruled out. He's up there for the long throw, basically, but he's just chanced it. We've put it in the net. We put it in the box. We do put a lot of crosses in the box. I've seen criticism in the past of we don't get enough, we don't create, we don't do this, we don't do that. Well, we did. We put a good ball into the box. nice to see Lewis get a goal. And do you know what? He did rifle it in. He absolutely meant it. And it felt a little bit. Do you remember him putting the ball rifling in against Blackpool when we won 3-2 at their place right at the beginning of the 2020-21 season? He absolutely twatted it in. And that was what he did. And it's what you've got to do. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, if you're going to get it in at that position, you've got to get it on target. You've got to get it powerful. He's chanced it. He's had his effort. A little bit disappointing. It's two centre halves creating the goal. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit harsh from a long throw. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh there. It doesn't matter who scores them, but it was a good time to score because it did change the game. It changed the game for the entire second half. We took real heart from that. And bear in mind, it was something like 7 minutes into 5 minutes of added time. I think one of their players had been down injured for quite a while as well, so they may have felt a little bit aggrieved that we were still playing on, but it was nice. And you know what, I genuinely felt from the way that we'd played that we could get something from the game, even at 2-0. I thought, you know what, sounds silly, but the next goal felt crucial, and at 2-0 that's obvious, isn't it? They score a third, you're dead and buried, but it really did. They say 2-0's a dangerous score, and I always laugh at whoever they are, when they say it. And then I'm sitting there watching it thinking 2-0's a dangerous score.
Yeah, no, it was. It felt a little bit better going into half time, and I had that sense of optimism as well. I thought, we can get something from this, particularly if we carry on playing the way we are doing. We came out, and I think we carried on playing the way we were doing. I thought we looked decent for the majority of the second half. We were creating a few opportunities. I thought Jovan looked really, really good down the right wing. There was one moment in particular, I think. He got out on the right, won the ball back, managed to get past a couple of players, put a ball in, and then it ended up with Rico, who absolutely smashed that shot at the keeper, and he bit of a reactive save more than anything else to put it out for a corner. But yeah, I think Rico a little bit further up, he said as much himself, and Jovan out on the right. I thought they had probably their best halves for a while in the second half on Saturday.
Yeah, I do think Jovan is a little bit more of a right winger than he is a centre forward. He's not a natural finisher, but he's a bit ungainly when he's on the ball. He's got a bit of pace about him. He's actually a really nice footballer. He might not be able to finish, but you watch some of the stuff he does with the ball. He is quite good. And again, John Booth has commented, said lots of Orient fans felt he was our best player. And there was, I think, Barnsley fans were terrified of him last season. There's a negative aura around Jovan within our own fan base for some reason, from some sections of our own fan base, which I don't really understand. Maybe it's because he's being played out of position. Maybe we look at him as a centre forward, but actually there are elements of a wide player there, and he is still young. He can drift in and out of games. I thought he was really poor the week before, but I thought he did well. We did begin to control the game. Orient, I think you almost sensed the crowd turning a little bit, but we didn't boss the game. And again, you never looked at us and go, well, we look like a well-drilled side, but we were progressing where we needed to progress. We're a patient side rather than a well-drilled side. So, we're happy to come back and look at 11 in front of us and go, right, how are we going to pick them apart? We don't, if we get in a position where you want a killer pass or a killer run, we don't always have that. And I think that's part of the frustration. I think that's why sometimes you hear some people say, we lack desire, we lack intensity, we lack ideas, because we get the ball into certain positions, let's say with maybe the 4 defenders and 2 midfielders, and rather than immediately looking forward, we're looking backwards. But it's not the negative, it seems, where it's not a massive positive, because some teams will be quick, they're in, they're gone, they've got runners in behind, all that sort of thing. But it's the way we play. We play a little bit more patient, and perhaps that isn't always to everybody's liking. Rightly or wrongly, football's a game of opinions. And I think that was really evident in the second half when we get into some good positions sometimes, and rather than trying to beat a man, or rather than trying to kind of double up and get past, it was foot on it, turn around, let's go backwards. Ben House did it, Conor McGrandles did it. And that's not criticising them, because that's the way we play. And that's why we don't look as well drilled as somebody like Orient, because people think it's well drilled because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 passes, they're broken down and they're through. So, but they only did that on 2 or 3 occasions.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, there was one other chance that I wanted to bring up, and Jimmy's actually mentioned it here. So Jovan's maturing and playing much better, but should have scored with his header, maybe came off his shoulder. I think there was probably a couple of instances where the ball came over and maybe Jovan didn't expect the ball to get to him, but it ended up doing so. I think one was possibly with that header, and there was another one where ball comes over the top, and it looks like the defender's going to get it. He misses it, and it ends up going out for a goal kick. But yeah, I mean, that'll come with experience. He's not the complete player yet, and I don't think he will be for a good couple of years.
Might not come with experience. Depends on your positioning, doesn't it? I don't think he's a natural centre forward, and I think we're beginning to see him more in his natural position as a kind of a right winger. And he's not a natural finisher. Freddie Draper, you could argue is, but Fred needs maybe a little bit more pace and a little bit more kind of the awareness that James Collins will teach him, the experience. Whereas I think with Jovan playing him out wide, it takes a little bit of that goal scoring pressure off him. And if he can continue to create, then fair enough. It might be a way to get them get his value and his stock higher.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the second goal then, because again, the ball, the free kick comes in, and I think the free kick's probably a little bit of a soft one from our point of view as well. He goes into the Ben House, but I think Ben House does what Ben House does, and he makes a meal out of not a lot of contact. But given what happened in the first half, I think we take it. The ball comes across, and it's that man again, Paudie O'Connor, with a header, and James Collins has essentially just drifted away from his man to find a little bit of space, reacts the quickest, and gets it in at the second attempt. Now, we didn't really speak too much about Freddie Draper, other than we thought he had a decent game. But when he came off for James Collins, I thought, right, this is where we probably make the claim to get something out of the game. And he's proven to be a really valuable signing for us, isn't he, Gaz?
Well, at the moment, it feels like John Marquis felt after the first month. And remember, after the 4 months, John Marquis, nobody was really that keen on whether he stayed or went. James Collins, I think, is a little bit different. He does have a little bit of class. He drives standards, and we'll pick up on that for the final goal, something I saw for their winner. And he gets in the right place at the right time, and that's what a good centre forward does. So it's funny there you pick up how the perception of free kicks. So like for their goal, we're going, it's never a free kick. The guy's throwing himself on the floor, blah blah blah. Yep. And then for our free kick, it's Ben House does what Ben House does. It's the same thing. That's why I didn't know too much about the free kick, because it's So it's an easy trap to fall into, and I'll let you fall into it if that's all right.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for, isn't it? I'll take the hits.
I didn't look at that and think that's a weak free kick, to be fair. So at least you have picked up on it. I didn't think about it at all. I thought, we've got a free kick, let's get it in there. And centre forward, that's what centre forward does. That's what we've needed. That's why in all of the doom and gloom, and there is doom and gloom for valid reasons and not valid reasons, there are the doom and gloom, fair play. People are entitled to their opinions, but for all of that, I look at James Collins. I think if we keep him fit for the next 18 months, he's going to score 15 to 20 goals for us next season. And, if we've got somebody who at the moment, rather than our leading scorer being on 6 or 7, they were on 15, we would be 10, 12 points better off, and 10, 12 points better off would put us in the playoff race. And that's why it's real fine margins between where we are now and the top 6 or 7, because if we just, if one of our strikers had been actually caught fire, or if we'd had James Collins from the start of the season and he was now on 15 goals, we'd be, let's say, 10 points better off. If we just hadn't conceded so many stupid, excuse my language, fucking goals, because we have like goalkeepers' errors or defenders' errors or stupidity, like coming off Tendai's arse wasn't even his fault against Wrexham. Do you know what I mean? He's just come off his arse. If we were a little bit tighter, it's what I said on the podcast last week. In terms of shots conceded, we're what, top 4, top 5? In terms of XG, which I know people will cringe at, we'd be top 6 into such fine margins, which suggests to me we're not a million miles away. Whereas under Mark Kennedy, we were conceding lots of shots, we weren't getting the chances. We felt like we were drifting away a little bit. And I appreciate that it's still not good. But James Collins scores, and if James Collins keeps scoring goals, then we will do better.
Absolutely. But then after that, I kind of felt that Orient started to come back into it a little bit. They had a shot that flashed past the post after some really good work from Abdullahi. Again, maybe the danger signs were there. And then there was the sucker punch, wasn't there? Ball comes across. Kelman did what Collins did for our goal, just finds that little bit of space. And in fairness, it's a decent finish, puts it above G-Cock. And it suddenly just felt very, very deflating from a game that we probably should have got something from. I thought we were good value for it.
It's a great finish, but why is Dom Jeffries behind him?
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's easy to look at the first goal for Zach Geacock and go, that's a goalkeeping error. But there's not that many people have looked at it and gone, that's a defensive error. Now, whether I think he's Jeffers' man, just not good marking in the area. And you can tell, this is what I've mentioned about James Collins earlier, you can tell who Collins thinks is at fault. Because if you watch the replay as they're celebrating, he is going absolutely mental at Jeffries, because the ball has dropped to Kelman in the 6-yard area and his marker's behind him. And these are the errors, these are the moments, these are the things that we have got to cut out. These are the things that are doing us a disservice, because if we come away 2-2 with the performance that we've had, even with the Geacock era, even with McGrandles giving the ball away, if we come away at 2-2, people go, well done. We've gone to Leyton Orient, a team that conceded 10 goals all season, and we've scored 20% of the goals that they'd previously conceded in one game.
Yep.
So we have gone and actually done a decent job there. But 3 individual errors have been punished, and they're not even in one of them. Only 2 of them are individual errors that are literally goal changing. The McGrandles one is a little bit unfair because he's given the ball away, but we could have stopped it. And that's the frustration, isn't it? Because that's why there are two really distinct camps. There's the glass half full brigade, which I tend to be a member of, going, we played well, it's only if we could cut out these little mistakes, this is all right, that's all right, we're on the right track. And there's a glass half empty brigade, absolutely right in the same way, going, but we're making these mistakes.
Yep.
If we are good enough to go to Leyton Orient and score 2 goals when there's only been 10 scored past them at their home ground all season, why are we still losing the game? And that's the frustration, I think. That's why people, like these days, opinions are exaggerated. Everybody's opinion on social media is exaggerated because they put their colour to a mast and then they stick to it, and we're all guilty of it. I try and be as positive as I can. I don't do it for an agenda. It's my opinion, just to clarify if you're listening, Mr. Christopher. But it's an opinion, but I try and look for the positives, and I think there are plenty of positives. But at the same time, I can understand those who are looking at that going, well, that's cost us points. As the miss against Stevenage, Jovens, that cost us points. This moment has cost us points. That moment, do you know what I mean? And I absolutely buy that as well. And that's why polarized opinions from very, very similar situations, I think.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately there's a middle ground that I think probably a lot of people will fall under. That yes, it's frustrating that we're making these mistakes, but I think we're, particularly after Saturday's game, I think we look a lot better. Well, we looked a lot better. And do you think this is now a sign that maybe systems are going to change? I mean, we spoke last week and we said, do we think the season's potentially over at this point? Do we think we're seeing do we think we're seeing that maybe from the club's point of view? Do you think that there's a belief there that we can still achieve a top 6 finish this season? And do we think that with the season maybe petering out, is that going to be an opportunity to try new things and do something different for the rest of the season?
I don't think it's an opportunity to try new things. And what are we on? 40 points at the minute from 31 games. Leyton Orient on 50. It's 10 points. I think that's too much to catch up. But I said the same after we drew 0-0 with Stevenage last week. Our problem is inconsistency. And there was a question from Kyle in the Patreon, Carl Fox, about what do you think the main reason for our inconsistency is this season? I don't know. If I knew and Michael Scabala knew, we'd stop it. But that's our issue, is that, we are, when we play well, we did play well against Orient, we did play well against Blackpool, we lost games. Then when we haven't played so well, I seem to remember Northampton, for instance, we're winning games. It's just that inconsistency. On our day, we're a top 6 side, rightly or wrongly. I'm not going to mention budget. On our day, pound for pound, we're a top 6 side, but we don't have our day enough. And we don't have players at the moment who perform week in, week out. So we talk about Jovan having a great game on the right wing, Rico having a good game on the left wing. We talk about Freddie Draper playing well. Ben House has had a good game. But you can't say in 90% of the games that those players, I'm not just singling those out, Conor McGrandles, Ethan Hamilton, you can't say 90% of the games they play, they're on form. And that is the problem. And that's probably why we're inconsistent, because we've got a decent squad, but we never seem to have players that are at their best 90% of the time enough. There are players, by the way, I think who are at their best 90% of the time. Tendai Doriqua, Sean Rowan, Pordy O'Connor are always very good. Ethan Arahan, I think, aside from when he gets sent off, they're probably the ones that are absolutely consistent in 90% of the games. They have 2 or 3 bad games, in my opinion, a season, or certainly up to this point in the season. But outside of that, we just don't have enough consistency across the squad. And if we can find the consistency from 9 or 10 players, not 3 or 4 or 5 players, then that's when you improve.
Yeah, no, definitely so. But look, we are 34 minutes in, so we're going to wrap up Orient there. I think is a good spot too. So we will take a quick ad break, say hello to the folks that are watching live on YouTube. And when we come back, we'll talk about Mansfield. So we'll see you in a sec. Oh, there we go. That's me hitting my mic stand. But yeah, no, how are we doing on the YouTube? I think I've seen everybody's in. Say already, Steve, John's in, Andy, Kyle's in, Flossie's in. I'm intrigued by the name of Flossy Tops, but there we go. We've got Jason's in, Neil's in. We like the chit chat. Good, we do as well. John Bates is in, Dom's in, and Connor's in, and John Davison's in. A little bit late to the party, and Richard's in as well. So there we go. Cool.
You've missed a few out there. You've missed Jimmy O. Enjoy your fishing.
Where are we? Enjoy your fishing. And Jimmy O. We did talk about
it. Enjoy your fishing. Just go back. Is that Ash? No, I thought it looked like Ash.
No, we did say we talked about Jimmy O because he was talking about Joe when he nearly scored with his header. But yeah. Right. So anything that you want to put on the YouTube exclusively, Gaz, or should we go straight back into it?
Let's go straight back into it because I've got lamb shank cooking, not a euphemism.
Oh, you beauty. Right, we'll come back in 3, 2, 1. And there we go. That is our advert for the week. We've said hello to all the folks on YouTube that are watching. Gary is getting his sponsored
Fox Electrical Supplies badge in.
Yeah, getting the badge in on YouTube for those of you that are watching. But yeah, look, obviously tomorrow we're going to go from the division's in-form team to the division's out-of-form team. Mansfield lost 5 out of the last 6 with the rot being stopped possibly by a 3-3 draw, which is very out of character for them on Saturday against Blackpool. Should we hit the preview clip now, Gaz, or do we want to go for that?
Well, just to say they've actually lost 7 of the last 8. They lost 7 on the bounce, including an FA Cup game against Wigan. At home, they have lost 4 on the spin, 2-0 against Wigan, 1-0 against Wycombe, 1-0 against Crawley, and 1-0 against Northampton. Away from home, 3-0 against Orient, 2-0 against Shrewsbury, 3-2 against Cambridge. So yeah, they're definitely going to beat us. But let's roll VT and see what they think.
Yeah, so I got to chat with Craig from the Mansfield Matters pod. Always good value. Craig's a decent podcaster, so here's a clip from that.
I'd like to think so. I think definitely going back to the game at your place, I think that was a massive turning point in Nigel Clough's head, actually, because obviously during that window we'd lost Davies Killardon. I can't quite remember whether we'd lost him pre coming to you or post. I think it might have been pre. Because we didn't play very well, and the timing of the goals against you, I think you ended up winning that 4-1 winners, I think, on the day.
Yeah, it was 4-1.
And the timing of the goals probably made it look a little bit more one-sided than maybe it was, but we were dreadful in parts, especially sort of defensively. And we were still sort of setting up in that 4-4-2 diamonds at the time, which, of course, Davies Killardon was a massive part of. And since losing him to Barnsley, we sort of hadn't had any players that could particularly play that position. So we needed to sort of change a little bit. And during that game, I remember us going to a back 5, and albeit after we'd conceded all 4 goals, and we looked a lot more solid defensively. And then we sort of took that into the next few games and started to pick up a little bit of form. And I think at one point we were pretty much, in the playoffs, looking quite good and thinking, you know what, we could actually have a decent season this season. Many fans perhaps thought that, but I think, underneath the core, that was more a momentum thing than anything else. We always knew we'd hit a little bit of poor form, which we went on to do in November time, where we didn't win in 5 games, although in those 5 we were in the games and we were very unlucky in a fair few of them. I remember Wycombe's a prime example of that. We were drawing up until the 90th minute and we just switched off from a throw-in, and they had a wonder strike which went into the top corner and ultimately won them the game. I remember going to Bolton away as well, and Hiram Boateng scored to put us 1-0 up, and then Hiram Boateng got himself sent off for a foul he never needed to make, and we ended up losing 3-1. It's those little sort of 1-2% which have sort of accumulated in a little bit of a poor run, and we were thinking, right, Christmas time we really need to kick on again and find out our feet once more, and we did. We went to Peterborough on Boxing Day, got a very good result there, which nobody was expecting, and sort of got through that festive period sort of on a winning run again. And we went into the Stockport game thinking if we can get a point, it would be a good point. I think we ended up beating them. And then after that, Wigan in the FA Cup, we lost. And since up until yesterday's game at Blackpool, we lost every single game in succession. So, and we weren't in those games at all performance-wise. So it's been really up and down. And on a whole, I think it's been the season we expected it to be. I just think that the start that we had perhaps maybe raised people's expectations a little bit too much. But, you know, when you strip this division back, it's a division where really it has an elite 4 or 5 teams financially, and the rest of us are really struggling to compete. And Mansfield, despite what people think from the outside in terms of having this budget and having rich owners, we've not spent money on more than one player in this whole season. We brought Will Evans from Newport. That's the only money we've spent. We've sold players to get some finances in, and we've not invested in the squad. And if you look at our form, you know, January through till now, that's showing. And the fact that we didn't invest the money that we recouped from Davies Keeler-Dunn, from Ollie Clark being sold to Swindon, from Will Swan being sold to Crawley, we've not invested that, and it's showing. So we're where we are. We are struggling performance-wise at the minute, but on the whole, it's been the season that we expected it to be. And I still maintain, exactly like I did in August when I was on here, if we finish 5th from bottom, perfect.
And there we go. Gary getting caught out with his phone. There we go. But no, look, big thanks to Craig for coming on. I think I did their pod earlier in the season as well. They're a good bunch of lads. If you want to hear about Mansfield, I guess. But look, I mean, there was an element while I was talking to him there about what he was saying about their season, and I thought to myself, some of it kind of mirrors what we've said about our season. Maybe not exactly what we expected from it, but in terms of the, you know, early pace has maybe elevated some expectations, and, you know, there's a lot in the division that means that we're not able to compete at that top part. I think the big thing for them at the moment is that they've got a lot of players out of contract in the summer. Obviously, Nigel Clough is also out of contract in the summer, so it seems like there's going to be a big rebuild at Mansfield in the summer. But in terms of Tuesday night, they're in a bad run of form, as you say, Gaz. They'll probably beat us if that's the way it's going to happen. How do you see it going on Tuesday? And is there anything in particular that stands out for you for Mansfield at the minute?
Just to pick up on a couple of things. First of all, it was Keeler-Dunn's last game actually for Mansfield against us. So he did play that game, and then he left the week after, because I remember thinking before, I hope he leaves before, and then we beat them 4-1. It's interesting what you say about their squad. First of all, Lee Gregory, I think losing Lee Gregory has been a big thing for them, because he was quite a big part of what they were doing, and he's obviously injured and out. They have an aging squad, and that's something that really stands out for me. I'm looking at it now: Haram Boateng, Stephen Quinn, Lucas Akins, Steve McLaughlin. You know, it's quite an old squad.
They even brought Jordan Rhodes in on loan, and he's 35.
Yeah, exactly. And he obviously couldn't play against Blackpool on the 15th, but he did start when they got beat 3-0 at Leyton Orient. So they conceded 3 at Leyton Orient and didn't actually score. You've got George Maris, who obviously played for us. He's a decent enough player. But yeah, for me, they feel like a team that, like the guy said, absolutely right. If they stay in this division, it's big. And early doors, they were doing really well. And my dad was going, "Oh, Mansfield, they're doing really well, aren't they? You watch them go." And I was saying to him, "Look, I think they'll fall away, because I just think that aging squad, the legs get tired as you get further into the season. But the run that they are on is horrendous." And Jason in the comments has said, "Loud and proud from the warm-up, early goal turned the natives." I genuinely think if we could get the early goal, that could happen. But us and early goals doesn't tend to be a massive thing, and if we do get the early goal, we always end up losing 2-1, as we did to Blackpool and Birmingham and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be a game for the football purists. I think it's two teams who want to get to 50 points as quickly as possible. You know, if we beat them, it's a 5-point gap, and they've got a game in hand, so we really kind of put them nice and down below us. If they beat us, they go a point above us with a game in hand. It's absolutely crucial. I think it'll be nervy. I think it'll be an error-strewn game. I just hope, with them being the home side, I think that works against you sometimes in these nervy games. Now, I think as the away team, and okay, we're taking 1,300 there, but I think as the away team, there's probably just a little bit less pressure. And look, I was looking at some stats the other day, and this kind of plays into to this a little bit, but bear with me. I was looking at Sean Rowan's kind of crossing and passing stats, and you know, they actually drop depending on which side of the pitch he's playing on at home. Because I think when there's a home crowd that will sigh or will kind of go, oh, when a cross goes, I think players playing in front of the co-op stand, actually when the mood turns, it can make them quite nervy. When the mood is right, as we saw with Sorensen last season, his performance ups because they're there and they're on you and you know, it's really positive. And that's not criticizing sports, it's a natural reaction. If a player puts a cross in and it goes wide, we were having a conversation the other day, and like if you go, oh, nobody hears it,
it's one person.
If a thousand people do it, then the player kind of, well, I'm not going to try that cross next time, I'm going to cut in and come backwards. So whilst that's something I think that is an issue at Sincil Bank, and not just at Sincil Bank, you know, if this game was the home game, and we would be a lot more nervy. But actually, with it being away, I think they could feel that. But then they don't have particularly young players, so will their more experienced players just kind of shrug it off? I don't know. I don't think that this is going to be some, you know, Chris could sit here and go about tactical battles and all of that. I really don't think that this is going to be the tactical battle. I don't think tactics will decide the game.
No, I mean, I think you saying about, you know, getting the early goal, it was actually something that Craig brought up. He said if the first goal is absolutely critical in the game, he said if they get it, they'll get their tails up and the crowd will get behind them, because, you know, it's probably going to be a bit of a bumper crowd. If we get it, the heads will drop and it'll be moans and groans. Not necessarily, you know, boos and anger, but I think most fans understand the situation of the division and they understand where Mansfield are. But ultimately, you know, if we manage to get the first goal, I think that the mood will change for the better for us. But yeah, it is going to be pretty crucial on that. I think they're a bit rattled by injury at the minute as well. I think is it Deshi Ojalaja? I can never get his name right. Apparently, Craig and the lads on that call him Dave because it's easier. So they said that, you know, with Dave out at the minute, it's a tricky one because he's been one of their best performers. As we said, Lee Gregory's out injured. He's currently, I think, their second top goal scorer. He's in double figures already. So yeah, there's some big misses for them at the moment. So I think it could be our chance. I did listen to Michael Scubala's pre-match. That went live literally about 20 minutes just before we started recording. It was quite a long pre-match today, actually. It was some good questions in there. And the kind of stuff that he said in there, you know, basically asked about playoffs. He says, yeah, we're right at the back of the peloton, if you want to use the cycling analogy on that one. In terms of the playoffs, he said about, you know, the thing is we need to do better at 0-0, and the stats and the metrics tend to go in our favour when that happens. It's not we can be as dominant as we want when we're 1-0 down, but it's all about at 0-0 and getting that first goal. You mentioned earlier about, like, you know, the team potentially changing around and how that's looking. He brought that up and said that it's changing itself at the minute because of little niggly injuries and things like that, where players aren't quite necessarily fully fit to get into the squad. He said that it's not him not knowing the team he wants to pick. It's the availability based on just little things. One's, you know, 5 players not quite at 100%, they won't be able to get the whole game through. So yeah, there's a lot at the minute that I think he's got to take into account. And when you say about players not hitting the full 90, he says exactly the same thing again, where they've not had
hurting my head
season.
You're hurting my head. I thought you were going to ask me about Mansfield, and you just carried on talking for about 10 minutes. It's giving me a headache, if I'm honest.
I was just talking about the pre-match.
They got the first goal against. I remember when Ben mentioned the first goal last week, it feels like now. Well, they got the first goal against Shrewsbury. Man sent off against Shrewsbury and they lost 2-1. Blackpool got the first goal on Saturday. They equalised, then got the next 2 goals with 3-1 up and still ended up conceding. I think they've got a soft underbelly. I don't actually even think them getting the first goal is crucial, because I think if they get it, you can still get into them. I think if they got the first goal and we were to play as we did on Saturday without the silly mistakes, then I think potentially, yeah, we have a chance. But we've got to cut out those silly mistakes. We've got to be consistent. We've got to have, if we pick 11 players, you've got to have 9 or 10 of those players turn up and give their best game. If they do that, we'll win the game. If 4 or 5 turn up and 1 or 2 make silly mistakes and give the ball away, then we won't win the game. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So what are your predictions, Gaz? How are you?
Not doing one. Not doing one.
You're not doing.
It's inconsistent. If we were consistent, I could do a prediction, but you never know. It's not even that you don't know which Lincoln's going to turn up. You don't know which Conor McGrandles is going to turn up, which Ben House is going to turn up, which Freddie Draper, which Jovan Makama, which, do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to do a prediction. It's not me being critical. Like I say, on our day, we've got enough to go to Mansfield and beat them tomorrow night. And if we play as we did against Leyton Orient, then we will. Or we could, but we've got to cut out the mistakes. We made mistakes against Blackpool. We missed chances and we gave them chances. We lost 2-0 in a game we could have won 2-0. Leyton Orient, we gave them chances. We probably could have at least taken a point from that game. If you take out all three of the silly mistakes, because they didn't make mistakes, by the way, for our goals, we win the game 2-0. So no prediction.
Yeah. Do you think we stick with the 4-4-2 from Saturday, or do we match them up?
Don't know. Honestly, don't know. I would like to see us stick to it personally, because I thought we looked better, and I thought getting Rico further up the field gave us more of an attacking impetus. And I think if it's a team that you don't just turn a game with goals, you turn it with chances, you turn it with opportunities. If we get at them in the first 10 minutes and we hit the bar and we put a free kick over and we put a couple of crosses in the box, our fans get up, their fans get down, you change the atmosphere. So I'd like to see us go attacking. Now, whether a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 is more attacking is open to interpretation. But I think with the players that we've got, a 4-4-2 is more attacking.
Yep, no, I would 100% agree on that one. So, right, that's the game previewed. I think the full preview is on the YouTube channel, so go and have a look at that. It's a good old chat. Craig's good value, as I say. So we'll have a look at that. But because it's Mansfield, the question is always there, is it a derby? I don't think it's a derby, but it's a good old rivalry, isn't it, Cuz?
It'd be hard pushed to say it's not a derby, but it's not the derby. Like Mansfield and Chesterfield hate each other from the whole Scabs and the Miners thing. I get that. But actually, as the crow flies, I think it's the closest ground to Sinsel Bank. I think it's closer than Scunthorpe. Certainly the closest football league ground to Sinsel Bank as the crow flies, I was once told. I'll have a look at that in a minute when you go into one of your long monologues. So for me, it is a derby. For me, you look back and you think there's been certain games against Mansfield over the years. I remember getting absolutely pumped at our place. I can't remember who they had up front now. Was it Mickey Bolden? They were just so much better than us. I remember going there and winning 4-2. Jamie Forrester getting all the goals. I remember going there the day or two after John Reams had stepped aside for the first time. Alan Buckley's first game. We hadn't won away in 11 months and we won 3-2. We were 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go. They scored twice. I might be wrong, and I will have a look because, let's face it, I'm not usually. But I think Shane Bradley played for them at the time, who later played for us, and I think has now also been sent to prison. Did he
didn't only play, he scored.
Well? Yeah, he did. There we go. There, and then it was the season after, 4-1. We lost at home to them. We were 4-0 down at half time. Mickey Bolden must have been later. Was that when we lost 2-1? Barry Conlon and Nathan Arnold scored there. Look, lost 2-1 at home. There we go. 2008, Lincoln 1, Mansfield 2. Mickey Bolden got 2, and we'd won 3-1 at their place earlier. So memories. We did the double over them in 2003-4 as well, I think. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that game in 2008 has awful memories associated with it for me for multiple different reasons. But that was a tough day, that one. But I mean, we're talking about memories. To me, I think the two that probably stick in my mind for different reasons. The first one was 2019 away. I think it was the first time we played them in the league for a bit. Oh no, we played in the season before, didn't we? But it was when we'd not won, we'd not got anything from them for a very long time, and then we came away with a draw, Akindi getting a penalty, and it was a bloody cold night, and it was the night before my birthday as well. I remember that.
Is that your way of saying your birthday, the 19th of March, Ben?
17th of March.
Oh well, that game was on the 18th of March, so
it was the night after my birthday. Yeah, there we go. So it's been a long day, and then the other one for me, as you quite rightly said. Distinctly remember going away in 2006 with Jamie Forrester getting all 4 goals. 3 penalties in that game as well. That was mad.
There was a problem that game with people getting in as well. There was tickets in the away end because I remember Casey didn't get in and he was in the pub was the Early Doors. I don't know if it's still the same, but the Early Doors that the used to be at the top of I don't know if it's still there, to be honest. I never really drink in Mansfield. I remember him having to go and sit in there and watch the game, and I was texting him going, "We're 4-0 up or whatever." four goals. Yeah, very good. We have some questions from Patreons, don't we? Do you want to go through a couple of those for the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, let's go through some. As I say, if you want to get involved, get yourself onto patreon.com/the Stacey West, and you get access to our Discord server. We'll be able to ask some questions. So let's have a look. Kyle does say, what do you think the main reason is for inconsistency? I believe you probably talked about that a little bit earlier, but is there anything you want to elaborate on that one?
No, I've answered that question, Ben.
Okay. Who would be in your best all-time Lincoln City five-a-side team, Gaz?
That's been dropped on me a little bit, hasn't it?
Well, it's also been dropped on me. So.
Yeah, from the top of my head. So it's my experience, not I can't go back before my time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Alan Marriott, because his lack of height wouldn't be a problem, so he would be my goalkeeper. Paul Morgan, because his lack of height wouldn't be a problem, so he would be my centre back. I would have George Grant in there. I would have Pete again in there, and I would have Gary Taylor Fletcher.
Fair enough. I would also have Alan Marriott in goal. I would probably also have Paul Morgan at the back. In terms of a midfielder, I'd probably just go back with Nathan Arnold or somebody playing around there. Up top, I'd probably say Jamie Forrester. Not just because we've spoken about him getting 4 goals away. And then the fifth one, I'd probably have another defender. I mean, I can't go too far wrong with Michael Bostwick, can I?
Quite defensive five-a-side there, isn't it?
Yeah, but, got a couple of players that can get him. And you've got Jamie Forrester up top. He'll be fine. Right. So there are some other questions which I think were probably quite tongue-in-cheek.
There's one from Leyton that I quite like.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the one I was going to come to, because that one is quite serious. That's the word I'm looking for. In relation to the rainbow football, there were some crazy comments on Facebook. Should a club sanction its own fans for things they say on social media if they are offensive? Okay,
that wasn't the one from Liam I was thinking of, but we'll answer that as well.
Okay. Because the other one was tongue-in-cheek that I saw.
Is it? Yeah, well, okay to be happy mid-table League One. That is actually a serious question, but we'll come back to that. Is it? Should the club sanction people for what they put on social media? No, absolutely not.
Yep.
No, if they work for the club, yes. But no, you can't sanction fans. People are entitled to opinions. Those opinions, if they are right wing, are those people's opinions, whether we agree with them or not. We don't live in a society that vets everything. I on Twitter, I block people who I don't want to see their opinion, but that's my choice. I don't tell them not to have their opinion. I just block them. So I don't. The rainbow laces thing. I know exactly who they were talking about, and if the opinion isn't the same as yours, you can't, as a football club, go, well, we're going to sanction it, because an opinion is an opinion. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you start sanctioning opinions, you're just as bad as the people who you try and if you're trying to put a positive opinion across, you know what I mean, and then you try and sanction somebody else's opinion, then you're just as bad as they are. So yeah, no, of course you can't.
100%. So the question that I'm probably going to get some stick for not picking up on straight away on this one then is it okay to be happy being mid-table League One, or do I lack ambition? Asks Lee.
There is a two-pointed answer to that, because you should never be happy as a football club with where you are unless you're top. That's fact. You always want to be one better. It's the same with me. If I wake up in the morning and do 10 things, there's always an 11th thing I could have done. So, you should never rest on your laurels. If we were to finish mid-table League One, is that a finish that Lincoln City fans should be content with? Probably yes. Given, and this is where we get the QI bell going, given the budget table, a budget table which, by the way, is factual through EFL numbers, not plucked from anywhere. The fact is we are 19th in the budget table when from numbers that are submitted officially to the EFL. Now, the club then talk about success usually being +5. So if you are 19th in the budget table and finish 14th, that's classed as success. And a good manager tends to outperform the budget. We are one of the only clubs in the EFL who has outperformed their budget 5 seasons out of 6. The one season that we did not do that was Michael Appleton's final season, which does rubbish my opinion that Michael Appleton was a good manager, because we didn't outperform our budget that one season. But we've done it every other season, and respect therefore to Mark Kennedy, who I did not like, who had us further up the table. So, is a mid-table League One finish, taking away, we're Lincoln City fans, so pretend we're not Lincoln City fans. If you're 19th and you finish 12th, is that positive? Yes. If you're 19th and you finish 12th, but actually, if you hadn't had individual errors, you'd had been a bit more consistent, and you'd put a couple of chances away, you could have finished 8th, then you can see it as failure. It's just glass half full and glass half empty. It's the same situation. Would a neutral observer from outside of this club, when picking their 1 to 24, have put Lincoln City higher than 12? Yes, because we finished 7th last season and should have finished 6th had we not on the final day of the season. So based on performance last season, you would expect us to be higher, but it's not the same season as last season. And it's the same thing when you go back to the COVID season, 2020-21. People talk about us being, well, we were top 6 or whatever then. Yes, because there was a wage cap. So Portsmouth couldn't sign players because they had to try and sell players. There was a wage cap, and we had a lot of young players who weren't influenced by groans from the crowd, because the crowd was empty. So that season is an absolute massive standalone season, and actually even outperforming our budget that season, budget-wise, everything was more or less the same. So I would be content if we finished 12th, but if somebody said to me now, should we be happy with 12th? No, let's go for 11th. But let's not be too angry if we don't then achieve 11th. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I agree. I think the argument that I've seen some people making is we're an established League One club now, so we should be aiming higher. I don't think there's any part or any part of the machine that is Lincoln City that would want to finish higher than we are doing. That wouldn't want to finish higher than we are doing. I think everybody wants the best for the club. Everybody wants to finish as high as we possibly can. I think there's just a lot of walls in the way at the moment that are preventing us from doing so. Some of it is on the pitch at the minute, like you say, with the individual errors and the inconsistency, but there are bigger factors at play in the wider picture of things. And I think there's people saying, "Oh, it's an excuse. I'm tired of hearing it. I don't want to listen to them, talk about the budget." But ultimately, that's what it comes down to. If we want to get better players that are going to cost more and more money, where is that money going to come from? And the budget is obviously going to go up. You're not going to enter a race with a car and buy a crap car and expect to win it. You need to spend money on whatever it is you're doing. And ultimately, the money will need to come from somewhere if we want to keep pushing on, or we're going to have to consistently be more than the sum of our parts, which is a much, much harder task at this stage in the season and in the league as a whole. So, yeah, I would be content, but not necessarily happy if we were to finish, 14th. I think that's probably fair.
Good. Great.
Fair enough. You love leaving those awkward silences.
I was reading something else while you were talking. So
yeah, you do love those little awkward silences at the end where I just have to fill somehow, don't you?
It was the back of a cornflake packet because it was quite interesting. Well, more so than obviously whatever it was you were saying. Very quickly, I noticed on there as well, somebody had asked a question about the situation with Jack Mulhall that we mentioned the other week and Daddy Kadamatri, and it just says it looks like the club have met and apologised to Jack. So that's come from the Discord channel. So hopefully Jack will confirm that, and that would be, if there has been that apology, then that's good news.
Absolutely. So there we go. Right. Well, I think that is probably going to do us for another episode of the Stacey West podcast. This has been episode number 358. We're almost at the point where if you downloaded them all, you'd be able to listen to one a day. That'd be scary, wouldn't it? And have a whole year's worth. But yeah, anything you need to plug before we disappear, guys, other than the marathon sponsorship?
Nope, the marathon sponsorship. I'll be doing another update at some point this week. We're only 69 days from it, so I'll be doing something before the Scunthorpe half. So I'll be putting that up on the site and going through all the usual channels. The book is 30,000 words written. I'm hoping it will be about 50 or 60 by the time we're finished. And the raffle, I am still on it. It's just time. So I've got a couple of great raffle prizes. And we'll be looking for raffle prizes as well. Roy Rogers says, Gaz is so boring. Thank you, Roy.
Well, on that bombshell, I think it's probably a good time to end. So we'll see you guys later on in the week. Until next time, up the imps.
Up the imps.